Welcome to the ExecMBA podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Sherri Norman. Sherri is Assistant Dean for Student Engagement for the Professional Degree Programs and also Managing Director for DC Initiatives here at the Darden School of Business. Sherri and I recently connected to talk more about the work that she's doing leading the DC Initiatives team. As always, if this conversation is helpful for you, please like this episode and subscribe to the ExecMBA podcast so you never miss an update. Remember, you can always check the episode description for links to Darden blogs, social channels, and more. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Sherri Norman. Sherri, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Brett. Thanks for having me. Excited to be back.
Well, it's great to have you here. It's an Executive MBA residency for our Executive MBA class of 2025. They're here, quarter 9.1. Oh my gosh, they're in the final semester. We just had a few students finish up the part-time MBA program in December. We've got another group of folks who are going to be graduating and finishing in May. I mean, there's so much happening.
So much exciting stuff happening right now for our students all across the board. So, and to your point, I can't believe the class of 2025 is like in their last few months. So it's exciting, and just time goes by so fast.
Yeah, for those of you who are less familiar with the quarter structure of our Executive MBA program, I'll decode that for you. So quarter 9.1, it's a 10-quarter program. So quarter 9, pretty close to the end. And the point 1 means they're in their first weekend residency of the 9th quarter. There's 2 weekend residencies in each quarter. So they're their first of 2 here in the 9th quarter. So very close to the end. Oh my gosh. So Sherri, you've been on the podcast before, but for our listeners who haven't had a chance to listen to your prior episode, which they totally should, tell us a little bit more about you. Who are you? What's your role?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So thanks again, Brett, like I said, for having me. My name is Sherri Norman, and my role really at Darden is I kind of see it in two hats. The first is student engagement, the Assistant Dean for Student Engagement for our professional degree program. So I really work closely and oversee the team that helps our students with anything and everything related to their academic and co-curricular journey here at Darden. So that's the advising team, the team that oversees our clubs and organizations for engagement, student support, referrals, anything to help our students be successful in and out of the classroom. Student affairs, that bucket is all under student engagement. So we get a lot of student interaction there, a lot of interaction with our faculty, just really to help our students progress throughout their respective program, either at EMBA or part-time, successfully. And the other part of my job that is also super exciting is managing our DC Initiatives operations here at Sands Family Grounds. So being that we're so close to DC, we just think it's super important to leverage relationships, partnerships, just our location for our students, staff, and faculty that are based in the Northern Virginia area. So our DC Initiatives team is a separate team, and they really work to around our strategy here in DC in terms of like partnerships, relationships, events, bringing guest speakers to Sands Family Grounds, hosting things externally, things like that. Anything to get Darden on the map in DC and get our students access. So that's kind of what I do at Darden, kind of the 2 hats that I wear here.
Yeah, we have a pretty robust community of learners here in Northern Virginia, DC metro area. We have over 500 students across Executive MBA, Part-Time MBA, and MSBA learning out of our location in Roslyn. I mean, Sherri, no, that's a pretty sizable group of people.
It's huge. We've seen tremendous growth since we started offering the Executive MBA program out of Roslyn. I think the growth, and Brett, you're our historian who kind of been here since the beginning to see the amount of growth. But with that growth, right, comes just like opportunity, right? Opportunity to expand the services and the initiatives that we have for our students here. We have a large portion that are local as well, like our part-time populations, mostly local. And so really wanting to feel like our students have a robust set of programs and opportunities while they're in their program and even after as alumni. We have a great alumni base in DC as well.
Yeah, this is the thing that we underscore for prospective students all the time. I think oftentimes when you look at a professional degree program, you think about working while pursuing your MBA. I think some people think, oh, I guess I got to give up the idea of being part of a community, right? This is going to be very transactional. I'm just here to get a degree kind of mentality. Not here at Darden. People have an opportunity to be really part of a community, both within their program and also a broader community. If you think about our location, UVA, Darden, DC Metro, Roslyn, over 500 people, all kinds of connections you can make. And then there's quite a sizable group of Darden alums in the DC area. It's the largest alumni chapter for the school. So sort of think about the layers here of all the points of connection you can make. Um, it's a lot to tap into.
Yeah, it is. And to your point, there's so much community here. It's not transactional at all. I'd say, if anything, it's transformational because not only are you developing relationships with peers in your program, but also our staff have a community with students and get to know them throughout the program and different things that they're interested in, but also just our community and being able to connect students with the DC community, right? Like, so if you're interested in a potential area, we probably have someone in the DC ethos that we could connect the student to that works close by, whether it's Microsoft, or Nestle or something like that. So there's just lots of exciting times and exciting things happening, I think, especially for our students that are in the Northern Virginia community, and exciting things coming up as well.
Yeah, I always enjoy going to the homeroom time for announcements with the program. So I was here last night. Part-time MBA students were here. They had homeroom, and then obviously the executive MBA class here today. They had homeroom. Just the things that you learn about that the students are doing together, right? So for the part-time MBA students, they have an outing to a Caps game upcoming. They have their winter ball, which is a big sort of plus one event that they host in the winter. Executive MBA students, they've got a panel tonight, career focus panel. Then they also they're just sharing all the personal notes and job opportunities as well as new additions to family. I mean, it's wonderful to hear all these things, but all the things that the students are doing together in addition to just going to class. I think that's a big part of the value of the program.
Absolutely. I'd say it's a huge benefit to the program. Like when you speak with people about their experience at Darden and the executive MBA or part-time MBA, one of the things they tell you, in addition to just being challenged in the classroom, is the community that they were able to create and keep in contact with. Like, that's a lifetime thing. We hear it from alums that come back to different events. We hear how much the Darden community really impacts them. And so I always strive for students to tell students, start thinking about creating your community too. Start thinking about creating what that looks like for you. And that's what we're here to do, to help facilitate that across both teams, right?
Well, Sherri, we invited you here on the podcast to talk more about DC initiatives. Probably not something that our prospective students know too much about, but to your point, we are a DC area based program. Your team, the school generally is working to raise our profile here in the DC area, connect with more folks in the DC area. So I want to start by talking about just what is DC initiatives. What is DC initiatives all about?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Brett, for giving me again time and space to really highlight DC initiatives and how it can really be beneficial for our students that are taking classes at our Sands Family Grounds location. So DC initiatives is essentially all of the strategy and vision and operations out of Sands Family Grounds that focuses solely on the DC area, Northern Virginia region, right? So DC initiatives, I have someone on the team that focuses on our strategy and vision, someone else that focuses on partnerships. And so really what we're doing is leveraging our location for the benefit of students, staff, and faculty, whether that be one-off relationships and connections, right? So sometimes a student will be interested in a certain area. They'll want to know if we have anyone, local that specializes in this, or do we have a connection with this? And we'll connect them with one of our resources or our local businesses or partnerships that's come through kind of organically. Another thing that DC Initiatives does is host what's called Leadership Unscripted. So that's a speaker series where we have high profile speakers that come based on different topics, depending on what time of the year it is. So sometimes the topics are driven just by like what's happening in the world, right? That's relevant. And so we host Leadership Unscripted series. We also have a newsletter, right? We found that DC Initiatives, there's so much happening in DC that students just weren't aware of all the great things that are happening in our Darden community based in DC, but also the broader Northern Virginia community, DC community that are free to students, right? So we've developed a DC Initiatives newsletter that goes out once a month, and that highlights Darden events, but also local events for students that are free. We also include a student entrepreneurship spotlight in our DC Initiatives newsletter because we find our students are doing a lot of great things and they're entrepreneurs and small business owners, and they really should be able to tell their story as well. So creating that, again, natural community amongst peers is super important. So we do that and DC initiatives, and really sharing and highlighting information and intel that we get about programs, events, conferences that are happening. We just recently joined the Northern Virginia Technology Council. And so leveraging that partnership for our students can go to any of those events because of our partnership there, whether it's a conference, a speaker series, or a virtual event. And so those are the types of things that we're really focused on in DC initiatives for our students.
What's your vision for DC initiatives? Obviously, when you start talking about the things that you're talking about, you can go in a lot of different directions. But what's your vision?
My vision for DC initiatives is twofold, I would say. So the first one is really making sure from a strategy and marketing perspective that we're known in the DC area, we as in Darden, right? Known in the DC area that we have over 500 students taking classes here, that we have local population of students, that we are part of the Roslyn community, the Arlington community, the Northern Virginia community, right? When you think of schools in the area, part of my vision is that Darden is one of the schools people think about, not just the ones that have been here longer, but Darden's here. And Darden has exceptional students. And so part one is getting our name out there more in DC is part of my vision, getting our footprint a bit more and partnering with our marketing and communications team to really develop some of that strategy around how are we seen in the DC area? Are we on, a metro takeover? Are we on bus wraps? What are we doing to sort of cement our place in DC? And then the second thing I envision for DC initiatives is signature programming and initiatives throughout the year. So this is our first full year. We just are coming up on finishing our first full year with DC initiatives, and we did a lot of great work in terms of seeing what's out there, but also what the needs are for students. What do students want to see more of? What do our faculty and staff here want to see more of? What's helpful for them? And so year two is really focused on the strategy around signature events. How do we create sustainable signature events for students that are based in DC, based on the relationships that we have? So I would say that's my vision twofold, to continue to grow in those two areas, all for the support and success of our students that are based here.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question about how does this work connect to the student experience? Because I mean, obviously, something like promoting awareness, building awareness about Darden, it accrues to students benefit, obviously, and events and programming, this kind of stuff. I mean, certainly students can take advantage of it. But how do you see your work connecting directly to the student experience?
Absolutely, Brett. I think I would say I know that our work directly impacts the student experience. And I say I know it does because our goal is to help students have a great experience while they're in DC. We have the academic piece, right? Like we're a top program. The pedagogy that Darden has is unmatched. Like we all know that, and argue that it's one of the best MBA programs, if not the best. But co-curricular wise, I think having robust options and networking opportunities is for the student benefit. So students not only get quality and top tier education when they come to Darden, but students also get connections to DC. They get connections to these preeminent speakers that are coming here. They get connections to a diverse set of thoughts and views and businesses and organizations. So for example, this past fall, we partnered with, I sit on the board of the local Roslyn board, and one of my fellow board members is the chief of staff at Microsoft Federal. And we had never done a visit to Microsoft Federal before. So we partnered with our career team to do a half-day visit at Microsoft Federal and learn about the federal side of Microsoft. They had a panel. They gave a wonderful tour. Students followed up and got connections. They gave insight on applying for jobs at Microsoft Federal and what that looks like. That's an example of a direct benefit for students. These are the types of relationships and partnerships that we are promoting, all for the student benefit. Another one is we're really focusing on small businesses and entrepreneurship in our second year. And so if that's a small business festival for our students, a lot of our students are entrepreneurs. They have their own businesses. They work full time, but they are doing their own and like to have their own kind of businesses. And so how can we showcase that and highlight the Chamber of Commerce? We're a member of the Chamber of Commerce and they have an entrepreneurship grant. I would love to connect the Chamber of Commerce grant with our small students and small businesses and have them apply for it. That is a direct benefit for students of DC initiatives. So anything to elevate the networking, anything to elevate the student's profile in DC and get them connected to the right places, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I remember that Microsoft event when it happened, and I mean that event is an interesting complement to some of the other events that just happen up here as well. You have the Baton Institute's Tech Connect Day, where students have a chance to go visit tech companies in the area. And then there's a series of panel discussions that happen at our space in Roslyn in the afternoon. The career team will also host kind of outings to different companies in the area, give you an opportunity to learn a little bit more, make some connections. There's so much access that comes with being here in the DC area and being not just any school, but the Darden School of Business
Right.
here in the DC area.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so a lot of times also, Brett, we will make a connection with an organization or a company and connect them with career because our career team may or may not have them in their system for recruitment, for networking. So we do those types of connections as well, which again, as you know, benefits the students. The more robust and diverse profile of career and networking that we have, the better benefit it is to our students.
Well, Sherri, I'm wondering, I'm sure y'all have a busy spring ahead of you, but what are some of the things that you're working on that you're really excited about?
Yeah, so we do have a busy spring ahead of us. We're super, super excited. One thing coming up next week is our Leadership Unscripted, our first one kicking off the spring semester. And that's going to be a panel on affordable housing, really focused on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his vision for economic equality, what that looked like. This is coming on the heels of MLK Day on Monday. So it'll be the following Friday, just when we have residency in. So we do a lot of scheduling around our students being on grounds for their residency or their classes. So we're bringing in three experts who work in housing and finance, one being a Darden alum, Dr. Gina Merritt. We're super excited to have her. And we're going to talk through what that looks like now. How are we, or are we not, thinking about and aligning with the vision of economic equality from Dr. King? That's going to be held in person at Sands Family Grounds, but we do have a Zoom virtual option as well as it being live, as well as it being in person in Charlottesville for those who are in Charlottesville and our full-time peers who might want to have a watch party. We have that as well. So another thing DC Initiatives I mentioned before is our speaker series of Leadership Unscripted. And in addition to networking and partnerships and bringing things in for students in their professional growth, thought leadership is really important to DC Initiatives. So we love to have things like Leadership Unscripted to have thought, leadership, and good dialogue about what that means. And so really excited to honor Dr. Martin Luther King. The other thing that we have coming up in just a few short months is Darden Bosses Day, and this has not been done to my knowledge before in this way. So at the end of March, we're going to partner with our career team, our admissions team, shout out to Brett, and our students have signed their bosses up to have a day at Darden. So what that means is they'll get to connect with our career team and our admissions team just to learn more about the program, the opportunities for partnership with their companies, right? Like always thinking through how we get more connections for other students, but also their bosses or managers will be able to learn more about executive education, lifelong learning, which is a component of the Darden School. And if they want any of their team members to engage in an executive education course or certificate. And then finally, they will get a mock class led by our Senior Associate Dean, Yael Grishka-Kakane, who oversees our professional degree program. So they will really sit and learn from case method and learn how their employees learn for a day. So she's going to guest lecture a case on leadership for them. So we're excited to have our bosses in for a day. That is also virtual. There's a virtual option. So we also realize that some of our managers are all over the place, right? Because our students come from all over. So we're excited about those two events that are just on the calendar right now and really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and later in the spring, I think we'll have the second annual UVA Venture Capital Conference taking place up here in Roslyn. That is one of not necessarily DC initiatives related, but when you think about programming that's taking place up here, that's one of the things. I know it was a big hit last year, it's fully sold out.
Huge. That's right. That's right. That's in March. And that's a huge, huge thing at Sands Family Grounds. So the whole usually it's sold out. Super exciting. So you're right. That's not DC initiatives, but it is a huge, huge thing that we also promote on our channels as well, because it's something that is just students love it.
Yeah, well, I always encourage folks, so we get this question all the time about how to engage with some of the resources down in Charlottesville, some of the centers down in Charlottesville. I always encourage people to think about that kind of extracurricular or co-curricular programming as a natural place to get started, right? So hosted a conversation earlier today with Rodney Sullivan from the Mayo Center for Asset Management, and they helped put on the University of Virginia Investing Conference down in Charlottesville. They're also part of this venture capital learning series, and one of the events as part of this is the UVA Venture Capital Conference, which happens up in Roslyn. So there's programming in both places you can take advantage of. And we'll oftentimes see people down in Charlottesville from our professional degree programs taking advantage of maybe it's the Sustainability Conference or the University of Virginia Investing Conference, or I know this coming fall there'll be the Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition Conference down there. It's Southeast, sort of rotates between schools, Southeast Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition Conference. And so I always encourage people to sort of think outside the classroom a little bit here when you're thinking about how to build these relationships and connections. Very natural place to start. So,
Yeah, you're exactly right, Brett. And we also partner closely with our executive education and lifelong learning peers. And so we've actually had some students that have seen a talk being hosted by them and have asked, like, oh, could I go? How do I get, a ticket? How can I attend? And so oftentimes just reaching out to us, although we're not hosting certain things, we can share it and leverage it and get our students access to it. And so it's a great way to tap into the network, both in Charlottesville and at Sands Family Grounds. So very excited for that.
yeah, I love that point, Sherry. I actually had a current executive MBA student reach out to me about the economic forecasts that the Mayo Center hosts. They do a series of these. There's one in Charlottesville, there's one in Richmond, there's one I'll be up here in the DC area in the next couple of weeks in our space in Roslyn. And this is, faculty member talking about the economic outlook for the year ahead, and had a student reach out and, hey, can I get into the one in Richmond, and connected with the Mayo Center folks, registered, and hopefully she's going to go. And I mean, so there's so many things to take advantage of. I want to sort of say there's probably more things than you could actually find time to do. So it's important to kind of think about what your priorities are, but there's no shortage of ways to be engaged here.
They're not. And always, always, always be encouraged students to please email us and reach out. For if you're interested in and you see an event in the newsletter, if you heard about an event in the student announcements or things like that, if we don't know, we can get you connected to us if it's not our program specifically, but a partner hosting something in DC or Charlottesville, we're happy to get you connected. And two, we're always looking for ways to continue to provide robust opportunities and programs for our students. So again, don't hesitate to reach out if you are like, wow, this could be a really cool idea for DC to help, the part-time students or the MBA students. We'd love to do this. Please email us. We can partner and host something. So always, always open to student feedback as we continue to grow and develop. We're only starting year 2, but we're really excited to continue to grow with student input for sure.
Well, is there anything else you're looking forward to? Anything else that you have circled on your calendar that you're excited about?
I'm excited about so many things, Brett, when it comes to DC initiatives and student engagement. I think another thing that comes to mind for me as we look ahead is our opening week and how we can get in front of students to talk about DC initiatives. And that opening week is in Charlottesville. So that's another way to tap into events and see the grounds in Charlottesville. We start with R1 or LR1, depending if you're part-time or executive student, and kick off classes there together. And so we will be in person there talking about DC initiatives. We'll have our team there. So encouraging anyone and everyone to please stop by at the resource fair and say hi, email us to connect. We're on LinkedIn, but we're really looking forward to really getting in front of the new cohort of students in the fall to talk about what DC initiatives is. And so, yeah, that's the other thing that I can think of.
Yeah, that opening week is always exciting. All the programs start on the exact same time, same first week of school. So we end up somewhere like north of 600 students all in
Oh, that's great.
Charlottesville.
All at the same time in the forum, it kicks off, like everyone's there's great energy. So I always love that opening week. It's just so much fun, so much energy. But I really look forward to it to share with students what DC Initiatives is while they're going around and learning about all the things that Darden has to offer. I love giving that plug for DC Initiatives as well.
Yeah. So, Sherri, just a couple more questions for you here. We've been talking about this a little bit here, but for folks who haven't had a chance to come in for a class visit, we've got folks that live all over the country learning about these programs. haven't had a chance to experience the community directly. How would you describe the community that we have here across our executive MBA and part-time MBA programs?
How would I describe? That's a great question. I would describe the community as something that is, and I think I used this word before, but I'm going to have to use it again. I would describe it as transformational and very unique. Unique in the sense that Jarden truly cares about the individual student and the student's well-being. And I say this as someone who was a working professional student for my doctorate degree that balanced life and work and school and all the things and zooming into classes on the weekend and had a residency component in my program. And I can say I can tell you the difference that our senior associate dean knows students by name and remembers them. And our managing director of admissions can remember you by name and understands. And the community will come together in the high times, right, to celebrate new family members, birth of babies, marriages, new jobs, and also can rally together in uncertain times and times of grief and life that happens, right, naturally throughout someone's program. And so to see that in action as someone who's been through professional degree program before literally is something so unique that you can't really put into words until you see it. And I mean, we've had our dean pick up the phone and call a student when something has happened. Like that is not something you get everywhere. You can't even describe what that is. And so to be at Darden and get that really is something that's truly transformational and it makes a difference. And that's why I think we have the alumni that we have that are committed to continue to grow the community.
Yeah, I love that. That people ask us all the time what makes a successful student at Darden, and I'm sure we could do a whole podcast episode about this, but there's a few things I mentioned, being enthusiastic about learning, curious, being open-minded, recognizing that you can learn from everyone in the classroom. You have something to add, that's why you're here, but you also have a lot to learn and being open to learning from everyone. I think that's important. Wanting to be a great teammate, to offer help, to give help when you can. The other thing that I always underscore for folks is you have to be a relationship person. You have to want to get to know your classmates and invest time in cultivating those relationships. Um, that's kind of what Darden's about.
That is 100%. It is a relationship-based program and institution. And you see it in the stories that students have. You see it in how we all interact with each other and all like, thank you so much for this, for looking out for me, for here, for doing it. Like, it's just something that is so ingrained in the Darden culture and so genuine. And as someone who went to school while working, it didn't have that, right? Like you were trying to figure it out on your own. We were trying to do this. It is not like that at Darden. It's very, very relationship driven and relationship focused, which makes it that much more special because you're not going through it alone. You truly have a group that's walking with you side by side. And you see it when people get to the end of their program and they're telling their reflections, right? Like we have our closing kind of like reflections talk and you hear how people were really moved by the relationships that they made. And that is not something that can be duplicated. It's something that truly is genuine and is what Darden is. So I really appreciate your comment about relationship based because I think my experience could have been completely different had I been at a place like Darden. And not felt so alone, right? Like it was great for other things, but Darden truly is a remarkable place in terms of the relationships.
Yeah, the other thing that I think has come through loud and clear in what you're sharing is the role to which students play in sort of shaping the experience here. Um, we are working right now with the Black Professional MBA student organization on an event that they're going to host on the 14th of February as part of Friday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's going to be a alumni panel conversation. I think we're working right now on the panelists, but I think we're going to have representation across all the MBA programs here at Darden. And we just secured a moderator for it. I'm very excited about how everything's coming together. But this is an example of a student. One of the leaders of the Black Professional MBA said, "Look, this is important. I want to see if we can do this. We can make it happen." Really taking that initiative, and that Friday Night Live, that's a good example of sort of student leadership, student initiative. And like we would be on this podcast for another like 3 hours. I think we were talking about all the other examples of the way that students help shape their experience, shape the experience of their classmates, extracurricularly, through all these many different channels, right? Student organizations, Executive MBA Student Association, Part-time MBA Student Association, career reps, the list goes on.
On and on. It goes on. And it's not just um, relationships in terms of like clubs or organizations. That's a huge part of it, but also just like they care about how you're doing personally, right? There's not a time where the students aren't sharing things that are going on personally, truly care. And there's been times, I know, Brett, you with the amount of time you've been here, you've seen it where students will start, hey, this student's going through a hard time. Let's get together and donate this, or let's, get a GoFundMe, or let's do that. So it really isn't limited to just clubs or organizations. That's a huge piece of it, but like getting to know each other personally is a big part of the experience, and being willing to grow in that way, I think, is a huge part of the experience. But that's what makes it very special. It makes it a bit different.
Well, last question for you here, Sherri. What's a piece of advice you would share with our prospective student listeners as they think about their own MBA journeys?
That's a really good question. I think one thing I would share is making sure to think about what you want your MBA experience to be. And don't be afraid to reach out to any number of the staff, especially as we're getting closer to opening week, and we're going to be having some of those start of school webinars that our admissions team hosts so wonderfully. Don't be afraid to follow up and introduce yourself and get connected. Like, I don't think it's too early to get connected, right? Once those things start happening. And think about what you want your experience to be, and just embrace it. That's the other thing I can say. Really, really embrace it. And it goes by fast. You think it might not, but just as Brett and I were talking like at the beginning of the call of like how the class of 2025 is like in their second to last quarter is crazy. So it goes by so fast. So really start thinking about how you want to maximize your time at Darden and what does that look like. And don't be afraid to reach out and introduce yourself so we can get connected ahead of opening week and really support you throughout your journey is one thing I would say.
I love that. Love that advice, Sherri. One of the pieces of advice that comes up regularly here on all of our admissions podcasts, both ExecMBA podcasts and Experience Darden, is the importance of your own personal priorities as you go through your MBA experience. You have a limited amount of time. There's so many things that you can do. How do you sort through that list? How do you decide what you're going to put your time and energy towards? It's all about what's most important to you and what do you want to make sure you get out of the experience.
That's exactly right. And I'll say, don't hesitate to reach out to any of our team members, especially on the student engagement, advising, student affairs side. If something comes up and you have a question and you need help, I think it's another piece that I would give students. Sometimes you might think, oh, I'm a professional degree student, like I'm working professional, I should be able to figure it out. No, that's okay. That's why we're here. So please don't hesitate to reach out. There is no question that's off limits. There's no amount of time that you can email us. We are truly here to help. And so it pains me when students say, like, I know I should have reached out, but I didn't. Please, please, please reach out. We have an amazing team between our advisors, Aaron and Lauren, and our academic operations team. Like, we are all here to support. So that's the other piece that I just always try to really underscore is like, don't ever hesitate to reach out if something's going on.
Sherri, thank you again for taking some time out of what I'm sure is a busy Friday for you. Always great to catch up, and so excited to hear all the things that DC Initiatives is working on. I can't wait for Bosses Day.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Brett, for having me here. It's always an honor and a pleasure, and really enjoy speaking with you. So thank you so much. Looking forward to more DC initiatives. So keep an eye out for our newsletter in February with more information.
That was my conversation with Sherri Norman, Assistant Dean for Student Engagement for the Professional Degree Programs and Managing Director for DC Initiatives here at the Darden School of Business. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at exec, that's ExecMBA@darden.virginia.edu. Till next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.